All
Well,
right.
good morning, everybody. So we're back to do Google Slides, hopefully all the way through this time. I am Gina Rogers. I am one of the members of the digital learning team.
And I am Beth Swans, also a member of the digital learning team.
And I'm Mindy Kearney, also member of the digital learning team.
And we are here to chat slides, our favorite.
Yes, for sure.
Yes. So as many of you know, Google Slides is kind of the PowerPoint, if you will, equivalent of the Google suite of tools. However, I would say that the real power in Google Slides lies in its collaborative nature, the way that you can share and simultaneously work within a slide deck. And so, Mindy, what are some ways that you've seen folks use collaborative slide decks?
Yeah, so kind of like Gina said, the cool thing about it is the ability to have your students kind of working together. And so what I think is really neat about Google Slides, even more so than like, let's say Google Doc, when everybody can get in and everybody's working in some of that same area, is that in Google Slides, everyone has kind of their own designated space. And so what I think is really nice is having the ability to assign a specific slide to every student, so that if they're working on the same thing or they're sharing their ideas, everyone has their own space instead of in a Google Doc where it kind of gets all wonky and everything starts to shift as people add things. With Google Slides, I have my own little square and that's my spot. But not only that, but then the ability to be able to slide through other people's slides and see their thoughts and ideas too, and the digital aspect of it, being able to take it with you then wherever you go. So we have a couple examples later of templates and things that we will show you in hopes that that'll kind of maybe become a little bit more clear too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so as some of you are hosting like some online Zoom calls and things like that with your students just to check in and see how they're doing, a slide deck might be a great way to have your students kind of collaborating and collecting some thoughts or putting some thoughts out there simultaneously as you're on that call. And then you can flip through and kind of talk about what everyone said. I know that a lot of times when I'm in a Zoom call, especially when there's a lot of people in there, sometimes I kind of like hang back and don't talk. And so this gives everyone a chance to have their voice be heard or maybe have their thoughts out there so we can eventually call on them or hear what they have to say.
Right. It's always easier to talk around your idea, right? If you have a visual first, it gives you the opportunity to gather your thoughts first, especially like you said in Zoom calls, everyone just staring at each other can get kind of uncomfortable and awkward. So if you have something that they have prepared that they can share, they're much more likely to share to their classmates and to you, even as adults, right? Even as adults.
I also think it's a way to really make your thinking more transparent. So even if a person's slide is just to jot down ideas in the course of a conversation, it's a way to know that everybody's on the same page and come back to that, or questions as it progresses. Instead of jotting down notes, I'm a person who has to write things down to remember. So I can do that in a slide if it's a collaborative, and we can all kind of build on each other. It's just another way to think about it.
Yeah, and we're always looking for ways to make thinking visible, whether it's student thinking or grown-up thinking. All right, so should we show a few things or a few tips and tricks with regards to collaborating with Google Slides?
Absolutely, let's do it.
All right.
And if we have comments or questions from Facebook, I'll pop in and let you know.
Perfect.
Sounds good. Yes, and so if there's anything specific that you'd like to see or you want us to address, please make sure to let us know in those comments. So I'll go ahead and share my screen here. And so here we have set up a collaborative deck that Mindy and I and Beth all have edit rights to. All of you out there in Facebook world, you have the ability to come into this deck and observe as we are playing around in here. And so if you type in that bit.ly, if you happen to be at your computer or you want to try on your phone, you'll be able to see what we are up to in here. And so on this deck, a few things that we're going to model today are just how to set up a template set or slide and create different copies of that slide in order to have every student have a way to organize their thinking around a particular task or topic that you're having your students engage in. We'll talk a little bit about creating some table of contents type of slides to help every student get where they need to be going in a slide deck. And then we'll also show some different viewing options that make the collaboration a lot more fun. So here on slide 2, I have just kind of a template for decomposing a word. I have an example here, and if I wanted to use this as a template slide, real quickly, what I would do is just make sure the slide is selected. We can see it's selected because it's kind of yellow here around the 2. And then I'm just going to do a Control-C and then put my, I can put my cursor here or right below the slide and Control-V. And I can copy out as many templates as I need. I'm going to actually clear this out of my example before I go ahead and make any more copies of the template.
So Gina, and I know I mentioned this yesterday in part 1 or 2 of our tribe, but if you really want to save some time, once you've made like a couple of those, so let's say you make 3 copies of that template like you're doing, you can select all 3 of those with a Shift select and then copy and paste 3 slides at a time. So if you need a slide for every student, or let's say, I think one of our examples down there is like a book talk. If it's going to be something that is a year-long thing and you need a pretty long, many slides copied, you can do that more efficiently. Less clicks, which I love.
Less clicks. Everyone loves less clicks. So this definitely saves you a little bit of time. And you can set up a variety of different templates. This is a simple table that I just put in there with an insert table. And then down below here, we have some additional options. This was for webbing out a word. So if you use a root and put that in there and then do some different suffix or prefixes or add some different suffix and prefixes on this word. I just added some boxes here to create my web, and same principle holds with this. Just copy, paste the slides out. Down below, here's a model of a Frere deck. I've used these quite a bit actually in my classroom, where I set up like a simple background for a slide and then copy that out. And so to set up a background, as is set up in this one, I'm just going to add a new slide right here.
And one of the benefits, I think, of adding a background as Gina kind of gets that going is that, especially with younger students, with the previous examples that Gina had, those things are still manipulatable. Is that a word? You can still manipulate those things, but with younger students, or if you're worried about that template kind of being messed with by your students, when you add it as a background like Gina is going to do, all of that becomes just an image and it's not movable. So especially with your younger students who you might worry about like tapping on something and getting things all out of whack and resize, if you have that as a background image, it's stable and it's not movable.
Yeah. So let's see, I can't find my background that I had set up. So I'm just going to actually add this for our purposes. And so you can see that's there in the background, and you can, and yes, it wouldn't move around. Let's say, for example, I wanted to use this web as a background, or this type of example as a background, or this type of setup as a background. One thing that I really love about Google Slides is the ability to do some basic design and then download what you've created on a slide as an image, and then you re-upload it or re-add it as a background. And to save this as an image, if you go into File, and then, where is it?
And you do this like the super sophisticated way. Like I just screenshot that puppy and pull it in. Look at you go.
Oh yeah. So this is what I always do. I do download and then save as image. I usually choose PNG. Um, but you can also choose, I think this is an interesting option for a scalable vector graphic if you were using the image for anything else, because it retains it doesn't get pixelated. So
Right.
I'll go ahead and download that as a PNG image. It downloads just the single slide. Then insert, or go ahead and add a slide.
So while Gina's doing that, another thing that you might not know about Google Slides is in the margins of the slides, you can actually add directions for your students. So one of the examples is it doesn't look great on the slide deck because to share that into another slide deck gets kind of funky, but you can put directions for your students on the sides or text for them to pull into the slide too, which I think is kind of a nice way, and things that maybe most people don't know about is that ability to use those margins as you see fit, and the screen will just kind of adapt to that text.
Yeah, so putting stuff over here on the right-hand side or the left-hand side.
Right, and yep, and I have an example of that on 12, Gina, if you wanted to show that at some point in time too. It's screenshotted and fit onto the slide, but maybe that would help get a vision of that. Oh yeah, and on that one I do too.
Yep. So, okay. So let's take a look at slide 11 here. And do you want to walk me through a few things that you have on this slide, or what this slide is, Mindy?
Sure. So this is more an elementary base audience, and it's just a book retell or kind of a book recommendation area. So in the left-hand side, I have a spot there in a kind of like a green little post-it area. And in there it says, type your name, add your name here, so that it's just over on the left-hand side and kind of out of the way. And this is a background image too. So everything on here is a background image, but there are text boxes added in, so students don't have to worry about doing that. And then those emojis are actually small images that I've added to that slide, so they could pull them down to show an emotion about how that book made them feel, as well as the thumbs up and thumbs down to show whether they recommend that book or not. And so what's nice about those is if they're using an iPad or a touchscreen Chromebook, they can just with their finger move those over.
Super nice. Okay, and then your placemat discussion.
Yeah, and that one, like I said, is a little bit funky. So with the Google Slides deck that actually lives in, Beth and I changed the size of the slide, which is also an option to make it a little bit more square. And then we really utilized the margins. So everyone on the left-hand side, we had 4 people in that slide. So that sometimes gets a little bit tricky. So I put 4 text boxes in there and changed the color so that I could say, I'm gonna take the blue one, I'll take the purple, and around my group I go. And then over on the right-hand side there is in the margins are the directions of exactly what was supposed to be done, so that they could follow step by step of the process if they needed to revisit those directions.
This is not, this is one reminder for Google Slides that you can set the page size, whatever you need it to be. So for example, when we use this one with a group of, I used it with a group of adults, we made it to be an 8.5 by 11 so that it could be printed out as one sheet of paper with all of their information. Google Slides allows you to do that for any slide, any presentation, so you can collaborate, and then students could have a hard copy. Not in our COVID times probably, but in other times.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point, Beth, because you could, with an 8.5 by 11, even make like an ebook or something like that if you needed more space. So just because a Google Slide is the size it is that it defaults to doesn't mean that you can't mess with that and customize it to the size that you need.
And the last little trick or tip that we're going to show is just how you might assign certain slides to students with a table of contents slide. So we've done this quite frequently where we will put the students' names here on the first slide. So student 1, student 2, student 3, and then whatever slide they're assigned to. So let's say that this is student 1. I'll go ahead and add that here. And just copy that text box. Put it on the next slide. Student 2 and student 3.
And I would say too, like if you put the student names on that first slide and then just gave them the direction to add their name on their slide when they get there, if you're in a pinch and you needed to go quick, that might be something to think about too. So back on slide 1 there, Gina.
What's that?
I said back on slide 1, it looks like.
Yep. So if I click on insert link and then go here to slides in this presentation. So that's what I'm linking to, a different slide in the presentation. And then the student examples start on slide 3. So student 1 is on slide 3. Apply. Student 2 is on slide 4. So do the same there. And then student 3 is right there. Slide 5. Hi. And so when they click, it will go to the slide that they need to be at.
Which is a really quick workflow, not only for your students, but also for you too, right?
Yeah. So especially if you're, sorry, go ahead, Beth.
Well, I was just going to say, so I've been using Google Slides for a really long time. And honestly, I have never, this is my new aha. I've never thought of using a table of contents like this. It's brilliant. So wonderful, wonderful share. Exactly. It's such a great idea.
I think this is a really powerful kind of, because I do think the other thing to think about then is at the start of the year. This is what I always tell teachers, is at the start of the year, it's not a bad idea to just come up with a table of contents slide, right, that you reuse through the whole year. So start the year off right, make a table of contents, and then reuse that puppy all year long. So you only have to do it once or go back and edit it if you have a couple new students as the year goes on. But all you have to do is make that puppy once and you are ready to go.
Mm-hmm. Because you can copy slides between slide decks
right
so easily.
Yep.
So like if I just took this slide here, slide 1, copied it, I'm going to run over to this slide deck real quick. It's all linked up already, but I'll just paste it in there. And
slowly but surely, maybe.
Slowly but surely, hopefully, coming in.
I feel like Google is super bogged down and like sometimes those little functions aren't as smooth as they normally are.
Yes.
But yes, so you can copy between slide decks. So now you have your slide deck all set up and ready to go, and it's time to share it with your students. So taking this into mind, if you are planning on sharing with your students in a Zoom call, and you don't want to worry about everyone having to log into their Google account or anything like that, you're going to go to your orange share button and click on Advanced. Down at the where it says blue change, you're going to click on it because right now it says, ours is a little funky. It already says anyone or with the link can edit or something like that. But we want anyone with the link, and then you have to do one more step. This one is already at Can Edit. Normally it's at Can View, so it's going to default there, but because we had to mess with this a little bit beforehand, and then you're going to hit save and share that link in your Zoom chat or in Seesaw or in Google Classroom. Google Classroom is probably not as necessary, but if you want students to get in there and get in there quick, make sure that you open that up before and you're ready to share the link right away. If you're worried then about students being in there after your Zoom call is done or class is over, you can always go back into share and go back into advanced and switch that over. So Gina's clicking on the change there and switch from Can Edit back to Can View, and then save it again. And then you've just opened it up for that window of time for you to watch and be part of it. All right, so then she hits done. Yes, okay. All right, so you've shared that link then into the chat and you've got all of your students in there. How in the world do you see what all of the kids are doing, right? I feel like this, Beth, was my aha the first time I saw it. So if you go into View, then choose Grid View, fourth one down there, yep. You can see all of them at once. So I'm actually on slide 3. And Gina should be able to see me typing. I don't know what the directions are for this decomposing a word. Wait. Is pan my prefix, Gina?
Yep.
Dem is my root?
Yeah, means people.
Is my suffix ick?
Yep.
Seems right. Okay. So if I choose, then she can kind of follow along, which either allows her to give feedback or just kind of monitor it as it's going on. If she's sharing that in her Zoom call like she is now, all of the kids can see each other working too, which also can be very powerful. So you can see she's giving me feedback on my slide. All in one slick motion. The end. That's it. That's all we got.
All right. So Beth, do we have any questions or any wonderings?
We do not. So I think we have some people that liked the Carrie Burdick, liked the table of contents. And Maggie liked that there are lots of different ways to represent information. But we do not have any questions at this point. So what else can you tell us, ladies?
So Beth, did you drop in the Google Handbook doc too? So if you're just getting started with Google Slides, this might be all a little bit new to you, but we do have a couple quick steps just to get you into Google Slides and to get started. And we have a doc that has like 6 or 7 different things in there just to kind of get you started. And that might be the route that you want, or the route that you want to go on too, if you're just, this is all brand new.
Yep. And we'll also drop in here to our link to just a tutorial of the few things that we showed today. So some written instructions with that. Mm-hmm. And then we do have another hangout, or not hangout, but Facebook live chat starting at 10 a.m., not p.m. because I'm going to
p.m. Hey.
Yes, it's going to be a late night chat. We're late for some of us that are over 40.
Yes, right. No kidding. And that one's all about Flipgrid, right, Gina? You're doing that one?
Yes. Yep.
Awesome.
Amber and I and Maggie will be back with Flipgrid here at 10. So if you have any questions that come up at the end of this broadcast, feel free to dump them in the comments and we'll definitely hit you back with an answer, try to hit you back with an answer.
Absolutely. All right. So thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you for joining in and thank you for hanging with us as
Thanks for going on.
Yes.
See, three was the charm. That's all it took. So we now are pros at it, right?
Yeah. Right. All right. Well, we'll see everyone later. Bye.
Bye-bye.